Picture a 24-year-old dealing with depression for 2 years straight. Antidepressants, therapy, side effects ranging from insomnia to feeling almost nothing at all. Every single time a treatment changed, it took weeks, sometimes months, just to know if it worked. Now picture a different version of that same story. She walks into a clinic, gets a quick brain scan, and connects data from her sleep tracker. Within hours, an AI system pinpoints the exact neural pathway involved. Her treatment plan gets built around that finding, the same day, and this isn't a hypothetical. It's called precision psychiatry, and pieces of it are already happening, right now, in real clinics. Millions of people go through some version of that exact same frustrating cycle every single year. Not because their doctors aren't trying, but because depression has always been treated as one condition, when in reality, it almost certainly isn't. Let's start with what precision psychiatry actually means, because it's a genuinely different model of care. For decades, psychiatric treatment has largely worked through trial and error. Try a medication, wait weeks to see if it helps, adjust, try again. Precision psychiatry flips that order. Instead of waiting to see what works, it tries to figure out, in advance, what's actually happening. What's happening in a specific person's brain and body. Then it matches a treatment to that specific pattern right from the start. Here's where this stops being theoretical and gets genuinely interesting. Researchers at Stanford analyze brain scan data from thousands of people diagnosed with depression. What they found was striking. Depression isn't really one single condition. It breaks down into at least 6 distinct biotypes, each tied to a different brain circuit pattern. Same diagnosis, on paper, completely different underlying wiring underneath it. This research isn't some fringe side project either. One of the teams behind this work recently received a $20 million grant from the National Science Foundation to build out an entire national research institute focused specifically on this approach. That kind of investment tells you how seriously the scientific community is taking this direction. Here's how researchers actually found these different biotypes in the first place. They fed brain scan data from thousands of patients into a machine learning model looking for patterns. Patterns no human researcher, scanning images one at a time, would realistically catch by hand. That's genuinely one of AI's biggest strengths, finding a signal buried inside data too large for people alone. Take one specific example, what researchers call the cognitive biotype. People with this pattern show reduced activity in the brain's cognitive control circuit. This group, a particular kind of therapy, showed measurable brain changes tied to better problem solving. Another biotype involves a different circuit entirely, the brain's reward system. Researchers are testing a medication originally developed for restless leg syndrome and Parkinson's for this group, because it happens to boost activity in exactly that reward circuit. That drug repurposing detail matters more than it might first seem. Instead of inventing a new medication from scratch, researchers matched an existing, well-understood drug to a brain pattern. That's a fundamentally different, faster path to treatment than the traditional drug discovery process. Same disorder on the surface, completely different treatment underneath it. So where does AI actually fit into all of this? This is exactly the kind of problem AI is well suited for. Not making the final call, but processing scale no human clinician could manage alone. You brain scan data, sleep patterns, heart rate variability, movement, mood logs, even genetic information. A machine learning model can look for the pattern across all of that data at once. It can then suggest which biotype and which treatment path fits best. The clinician still makes the actual decision, but they're making it with a dramatically clearer picture than trial and error ever provided. There's a specific term worth knowing here, digital phenotyping. It just means using ordinary devices, phones, smartwatches, sleep trackers, to gather real behavioral data. Not a single snapshot from one appointment, but an ongoing signal day after day. Subtle shifts in sleep, movement, or even how someone types can show up before a person notices anything. Picture what this actually looks like day to day for someone in this kind of program. A smartwatch quietly logs that someone's sleep has been fragmented for 11 straight nights. Their typing speed has slowed down, and they've stopped responding to texts as quickly as they normally would. None of that alone means much. But stacked together and tracked over time, it can flag a shift worth attention, well before a crisis point. Genetics plays a role in this picture, too. Some people carry a specific genetic variant affecting how their body metabolizes a common class of antidepressants. For those people, a standard first-choice medication might simply never have worked well, no matter how long they waited. Knowing that variant in advance means skipping straight past that particular dead end entirely. This branch of medicine already has a name of its own, pharmacogenomics. It's not unique to mental health either. Doctors already use similar testing for cancer treatments and blood thinners. Psychiatry is simply one of the newer fields catching up to an approach proven useful elsewhere in medicine. Context matters because this isn't some radical, unproven idea invented specifically for mental health. It's a well-established medical approach finally being applied to a field that badly needed it. Here's one of the most significant and most sensitive applications of all of this. Researchers combining machine learning with clinician judgment have found they can predict suicide risk months in advance. Not with certainty, but with enough signal to justify earlier, more targeted support. For a field where timing can be the difference between life and death, that lead time matters enormously. Even a lead time of a few weeks can be the difference between a preventable crisis and a missed one. Clinicians describe this as one of the most meaningful potential uses of AI in mental health care, period. If you've watched our video on neural privacy, a question should already be forming in your mind. Whose data is this, exactly, once it's collected? Brain scans, genetic profiles, and continuous behavioral tracking are about as personal as data gets. The same questions we raised about consent, ownership, and long-term storage apply here, with even higher stakes. It's also worth drawing a clear line back to our video on patients bringing AI to therapy. That video was about people quietly using consumer chatbots for support, often without their actual therapist knowing. This is a very different picture. Clinician-directed, embedded inside an actual medical system, with a human professional still making the final call. Same underlying technology, in some cases, used in a completely different relationship to human judgment. There's an important difference worth sitting with here, too. A consumer chatbot has no medical license, no oversight board, and no professional accountability if it gets something wrong. A precision psychiatry program, at least ideally, keeps a licensed clinician squarely in the loop. That difference in oversight is exactly why the ethical conversation here looks different from the AI companion conversation. Now, it's genuinely important to add some caution here, straight from the researchers doing this work. One expert leading a suicide prevention research program put it plainly: AI tools can expand access to personalized support, but real, ethical, and safegens need serious, ongoing attention. A lot of this technology is still ahead of the actual clinical proof backing it up. Promising early results are not the same thing as a fully proven, ready-for-everyone treatment approach. Take a second and imagine being hesitant to try a new antidepressant, wondering if this one will finally work or just bring a new round of side effects. Now imagine walking into that same appointment already knowing which biotype fits your brain. Before a single pill even gets prescribed, there's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes with years of trial and error treatment worth naming directly. Not just the symptoms themselves, but the constant uncertainty of not knowing if this attempt will finally work. That uncertainty has its own psychological cost, completely separate from the underlying condition being treated. That shift from guessing to actually knowing is what makes this genuinely different from most stories we've covered. So what does this actually mean for you, practically, right now? For most people, full precision psychiatry access is still limited, mostly available through research centers. But if you're navigating treatment that hasn't worked so far, it's worth asking your provider a few things. Are there biomarker or genetic testing options relevant to my specific symptoms? Is there a research center nearby doing this kind of personalized assessment? And how is any of my data being stored, used, or shared if I do participate? It's also worth knowing that this field is expanding quickly, even outside major research hospitals. Some insurance providers are beginning to cover certain genetic testing panels relevant to medication response. It's worth specifically asking whether your own coverage includes anything like that before assuming it doesn't. Mental health treatment has spent decades asking patients to be patient. Through trial, through error, through waiting to see what finally works. Precision psychiatry is one of the first genuine attempts to shorten that wait. Using the same technology, we've spent this whole series being cautious about. That's worth sitting with for a second. The same tools capable of creating sycophancy and loneliness and manipulation at scale are also capable of this, genuinely reducing suffering faster and more precisely than we've ever been able to before. Which technology we get, in the end, comes down to exactly what this whole series keeps coming back to. Not the tool itself, but the care and the human judgment built around how it's actually used. None of this erases the reality that mental health care remains difficult to access for a huge number of people. Precision psychiatry, right now, still mostly reaches those near major research centers with the right coverage. Making sure this technology actually reaches everyone who needs it is arguably the harder problem left to solve. Researchers are also careful to note this won't replace therapy or the human relationship at the center of care. It's meant to remove some of the guesswork surrounding which specific treatment to start with in the first place. If this gave you a more hopeful angle on everything else we've covered, that's exactly why I make this channel. I break down the psychology behind the technology, reshaping our minds, our relationships, and now, our treatment. So, if you want more of this, go ahead and hit subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me, would you want your own treatment personalized this way? Or does that idea feel like too much to hand over? I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.